Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Coach What Matters podcast, where we aim to bring you insightful discussions on the latest trends, strategies, and challenges in the world of business. Today's topic is fantastic. We're going to talk about AI as a replacement for roles, specifically AI as a replacement for business and team coaching. With me is Cesar Flores, CEO, founder of Coach What Matters, and a leader, executive coach with more than 20 years of experience in fintech, SaaS, insurance, automotive, and transportation industries. I'm Leslie Szymborski, COO and co-founder of Coach What Matters, and a leader, coach, also with more than 20 years experience in SaaS solutions companies in biotechnology, insurance, and transportation. So AI, artificial intelligence. In the last year, the advances and use of artificial intelligence in everyday life has radically changed everything businesses do and how, in our personal lives, we go about small and large undertakings. It's amazing what we can do. There's been a massive investments, right, into building AI platforms. New companies are founded and funded to provide new promises and capabilities by the minute. Literally, everything has changed in the last, I would say, 9 months. It's gone from, a few people using AI to literally everybody. My dad can use AI now, and it's just amazing to me how the world has changed. So I have Cesar with me. Cesar, you, I know, have been experimenting with AI beginning since ChatGPT was first released, and maybe you were even working with some things before then. But if you're out there listening and you haven't started experimenting with AI, what do you say to people? Are they falling behind?
Well, definitely. I think, like a lot of people like to compare it to like the internet, right? There was a time before the internet and post-internet. And some people will say there's a time before AI and after AI. But I think the difference is even more dramatic. I think the changes in our lives will be even more dramatic than the internet. So the world before internet was something that wasn't instant. The internet allowed us, for example, for Uber, it allowed us to get Prime. It allowed us to get a lot of things into our homes and into our living rooms, smart homes and things like that. But AI, I think, will be even more transformative than that. And yes, there is a lot of anxiety that comes along with that. But the best way to overcome that anxiety is to play with it, to learn, to be curious as to how you can engage with it and how it could help you in your daily life and in your work life.
Right. Yeah. And so much to say to all of that. I mean, I think similarities that we've probably maybe forgotten about a little bit, but the trust issue, trust in technology is like a continuing theme. And I don't know if you agree, but it feels like AI just pushes us to the limits of what we trust about and don't trust about technology.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that as human beings we tend to do is the things that we don't know about tend to scare us, right? So there's a little bit of anxiety that's built around things that we're just not aware of or don't quite understand how it works. And that's a natural thing that happens. It's human instinct. So one of the things that we need to do is just get a little curious and understand it and play with it. And that's how I got into it. What can it do? How could it augment my work life or my daily life? What are the practical things that really will enhance whether it's something that I'm doing at home or whether it's an activity that I'm doing or an idea that I'm thinking about. And I encourage everyone to just explore and understand and also read the behind the scenes papers that these companies produce.
So what is your go-to everyday AI tool, and what do you use it for?
Yeah, this is the interesting question because it's almost like by the day there's a new AI tool that is coming out, and there's definitely people far more experienced and experts in the field than I am. I just been playing with it, but for me, for example, for development, there's Claude by Anthropic that has just released a new version that is great for development and code development. And if you're getting into it, it's probably a good way to experiment. If you're new into coding, it will help you with that. But I encourage you to also get a mentor with that because it can lead you astray. For general things, you can't beat Chat GPT. Really, it does everything all around well. And I would say for strategy, definitely Gemini Advanced because its strategic reasoning supports the step-by-step analysis and decision making. Not that it will do everything for you, but it will allow you to walk through a step-by-step view of how it's doing it. And of course, when it comes to no holds barred, there's several out there, but DeepSeek is one that really will allow you to do just about anything. There's a couple others out there as well that off the top of my head I won't mention, but there's definitely a way to get around many things, and the prompts that you use will help you with that. So get familiar with the prompts and also the prompting as it relates to a user role that you want that AI to play. That will go a long way with how it responds to you.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk for a whole day on this topic and probably not get tired of it, and uh, talk really about how we can experiment every day to make make life a little bit easier, and educate ourselves in general, not just on the tools, but like the results of those experiments and how much you can navigate through topics that were foreign to me yesterday. Now if I can ask the right question, I can learn all kinds of things very quickly. Today, let's focus on business because that's what we're here for at Coach What Matters, and specifically the role of coaching in business. The coaches, people that move work at organizations or lead work at organizations, these are the people that are near and dear to our hearts, as we both have been Scrum Masters. We've both been project leaders, project managers, and we've led Agile Scrum Masters and coaches and even organizational leaders. So, like, this is an area that we're very familiar with. And it seems like if you're listening to Agile thought leaders, Scrum loyalists, you'll hear a lot about AI and the role of the coach. From your seat, what is the greatest gift that AI gives to these Scrum leaders, Scrum masters, the project managers at the team level? What is the best part of AI for them that will transform how their roles are expected to perform in the
The
organization?
very first thing that I just want to call out is the anxiety around these things, right? And there's probably a lot of leaders out there listening as well that think, well, I could just use AI to replace a scrum master or replace a project manager. And also, scrum masters may be thinking that themselves, or project managers may be thinking that themselves. But in reality, this is just not the case. The AI is just not there with regards to the human aspect of the role. But there's a lot that AI can do to augment that role and to help that role. And one of the things that AI does, it does a very good job of analyzing data. Also, it does a very good job of doing things like note taking. So, a lot of the administrative work that the project managers do and the scrum masters do fall into what AI does really well. But those were always, in my view, low level return on investment for those roles. There was a lot of time spent in those roles in our backgrounds where where a scrum master would take a lot of time writing notes, or a project manager writing notes on meetings and things like that, following up on action items. Well, now the AI can do that automatically. It can highlight the action items, who's responsible for them, and all of that. So that is where AI, I think, plays a significant role with that. But again, those items were, in my view, low level return on investments. Those were not truly the value of a scrum master. The scrum master, for me, in that role in the lies in making those teams really high performing, removing impediments for teams to ensure that there's proper progress across the board, but also resolving conflicts within the teams. So those are the things that I think are the more of the things that they can focus on now that AI has been introduced into the workplace.
All right. And at least now, a scrum master or project manager will know how to navigate the organization. That's something that AI can't do right now. In removing those blockers, they're going to know who to go talk to. They know the structure of the organization, and they know the people to work with, who can solve problems. Um, they also, in terms of relationship management, I think that's not something that AI can really replace from the Scrum Master. But there is a lot of really interesting AI coming that can, again, augment, like in skills development. There is practice sessions that can be run with, common conflict causing situations, and the Scrum Master can practice um, to kind of hone their skills. But you're never going to get away from the opportunity to coach in the moment, and that is the graceful bit of being a skilled Scrum Master, is to be able to coach in the moment, listen to what's happening, observe the cues, and that's something that is unique to someone who is skilled and trained as a coach. I don't think AI is quite there yet.
That's absolutely right. And one of the things that I want to point out to everyone out there is AI will give you the generic right answer. So if you ask it a question about what does the Scrum Guide say about this, or what does the Guide say about that, it will know that, right? It will search. It knows when the latest update of the Scrum Guide was, and it will tell you what shifts in the Scrum Guide were made in and around that. But what it won't do is kind of what you're alluding to, Leslie, which is kind of those moment by moment conversations. And, almost like what I like to call the Bob Ross effect, those happy little accidents that happen within a team that cannot be captured by AI. And those are the moments that make teams great. It's not a by the book thing. It's how can we make this team better, right? And those are the moments where a scrum master in that role should be curious and should be beyond the book.
Yeah, good point. So if we had a couple Scrum Masters in the room here, hopefully there's some that are listening today. Um, they're maybe feeling that little bit of fearfulness right now. They're reading everything on LinkedIn, and we see a lot about this topic. What would you say to them right now to, maybe ease their fears?
The number one thing they need to do is embrace it, and also show leadership how they will use it. So we talked about a couple of examples, right? So one of the things that AI does really well is the dictation, the notes, and things of that nature. Make suggestions and really be their co-pilot in those meetings to run. So why not be your own advocate about AI and use it as a co-pilot? The willingness to learn and be curious is the number one thing that I would suggest to Scrum Masters to do. Learn about it, how it can enhance, how it can make you a better Scrum Master and help you in your career towards that. The second thing is to do all the heavy lifting on the analytics for you. AIs do a great job of doing team metrics and things like that, pattern detection, and really illustrating to the teams how they can get better based on the evidence that you have that AI has helped you with. So those are the two things that I would encourage Scrum Masters to do.
Really good. I think that's helpful. Yeah, the other thing I would add to that is AI has made creating any kind of presentation so much easier. Um, so I think if I were Scrum Master, I would be working on some of those tools to help my team, help me. Like I used to find those little moments of training, maybe after stand up, if there was like a quick concept we can make a quick video for learning, that maybe helps make the point a little bit easier. AI gives us lots of tools for creativity and it makes the learning for your team more exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I recall times when even on the project management days, updating the project plan used to be, a minimum a 2-hour exercise or something like that. To me,
Yeah, every
yeah,
end of every week,
exactly
right?
right. And to me, that is
Mhm.
a 30-second exercise now, right? So if you want to create a timeline and revise it, what was your baseline? What's the deltas in and around that, the milestones, etc. Those things are now instant, and you can do that. In addition to what you were saying, Leslie, I think I completely agree. You could tell AI you want 4 slides versus 10 slides. You can do that and get your point across, in different ways. If you're using it for PI events from SAFe, for example, it will definitely lay that out for you and all the things that you should cover. But it takes a person with experience running those to notate the differences, right, in the nuance within your specific PI in that example, to be able to edit, review it, and then making sure that it's perfect as you enter a PI event.
Right. That's another really good point that AI is going to give you, like you said, the Scrum guide by the book. It's going to give you PI planning by the book. And it's only those people within your organization that can take the by the book stuff and craft it so that it fits the operating model, any kind of operational adjustments that your company has made to make it their own. So that's something that no AI model is going to know. It's going to take that human with the skills and the experience at that organization to pull it off and, so that it works for your company. Well, good. I want to move from the individual contributor roles, the scrum masters, the project managers, into leadership. So, you've worked with a lot of organizational leaders. So have I. We've both been organizational leaders. What would you say about what's the responsibility or the role of the executive in the company's culture as it pertains to AI?
Yeah, this is a crucial point because there's a lot of anxiety, as we talked about, in the different roles that AI will replace different roles within an organization. So AI is now replacing, or the anxiety around that is that it will replace knowledge based workers. And what we need to do at the executive level is build an AI ready culture. And what that means is understand how AI will augment our workforce, how AI will be a co pilot within our
Yeah,
workforce. So they need to understand how they will do that along with their workforce, not leave them
great.
behind, but bring them to that place and help them understand how they will use AI to the workforce benefit as well.
Yeah, and hopefully it can be celebrated because anybody who's spent a little time using it realizes what a powerful tool it is and how it makes us all better. It really can make us all so much better and more efficient. And so I think putting an attitude of celebrating what AI does for the company in terms of putting maximum value, speaking of value, putting maximum value of your people knowledge, your knowledge-based workers, letting them really shine on what they can uniquely do versus spending time on, like we said, the note taking. There's just so much that AI can do to make the company better as a whole and more profitable, faster, all of these things. It's actually really cool stuff. Um, and like you said, I think you mentioned earlier, putting in the security guidelines. I think that's, a little bit of a fear place, that trust place that I was pushing upon earlier. Ensuring that, your security guidelines are there and people know, what's fair and what's out of bounds.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one thing is ensuring alignment with your vision, right? With your business vision. It starts there. That's the number one thing. And then we need to move on to the AI ready culture that you want to build, right? So those are the little things that as executive leadership we need to do. Nobody, at least in my view, with everybody that I've ever met, nobody likes the busy work, right? You mentioned the notes, but then there's other things, like dealing with Excel spreadsheets and things like that. AI will take a lot of that away, and that is not a bad thing. To me, that is a good thing. That was the low return on investment for the business, right? That was the high output, almost like the fake hustle, if you will, the busy work that happens in every business. Those are the things that will be taken away.
So we talked a lot about the benefits. As an executive coach, what do you tell your leaders about the current state of AI as it relates to their strategy and their goal setting and how they execute as a company?
Yeah, and we alluded to a little bit before, but the number one thing is alignment, right? Alignment to your vision, alignment to what your business is trying to do and how you can leverage it. Where the points that we should be careful about is asking AI to do the strategy for us. AI, for the most part, is built on data models. And if you're using the data models that AI is doing, they are all pretty much generic. So you'll be following what everybody else does eventually if you're asking AI to do that. What you need to be able to do is make it personal to your business. And this is why I say it starts with that alignment with your business and how it could augment it for you and the value that you specifically deliver. Also tying that in to your core principles like we were talking about and how you're going to develop your culture around that. The third thing is to use AI as a core part of how you track metrics and patterns in market detection. But we have to be careful with that strategy because that strategy is tied to what makes a business unique. And AI was not built for your specific business. It was built generically for everybody. So if you're following what AI is telling you from a strategy perspective, you're becoming average. You're following what everybody else is doing. And chances are that information is from 2015. So we need to be forward looking beyond what AI can see and use our human instinct to be able to drive that alignment towards our vision.
So let's talk about what Coach What Matters is doing to follow our own advice on AI.
Yeah, this is the most exciting part for me because as we roll out, one of our flagship products is the why blueprint. And one of the things that we want to be able to do with the why blueprint is take all the administrative parts out of it. So one of the things that we do is core business metrics within that. So AI will be incorporated into those core metrics and how they're tracked all the way from the executive level down to the team level, and how they are impacting the business as a whole, and right, and detecting where those pivot points should be and the decision making. That is the most powerful thing that AI will bring to the table, and how, from our perspective, Coach What Matters will use it. We will use it in and leverage its strengths where it's needed to take all the administrative work out of it, even for us.
Also, with what AI does that I think is so very helpful, and we use it every day as we're creating content and preparing for different engagements, is the ability to research.
Yeah, I'll give you a real good example on that. I just spent a couple weeks ago researching initiatives from 1995 to 2025 and how successful the initiatives were throughout that time span. And if you've ever dug deep into researching that, you'll know firsthand that there's some gaps in those years, right? And different companies reporting different things and success levels and their criteria of what they consider success. With the help of AI, it can detect the patterns, the different definitions used, and also understand why the definitions were different, what factors led to changing the definition, and how you can use the changes throughout to track the success criteria. So that is an example, a real life example that we use to understand how successful these different initiatives have been since 1995 to 2025. And that's a large time span. But what you can do with that information is understand how different tactics were introduced throughout that time, their impact on initiatives, and how successful they were.
Some It's very, very, very powerful. And like I said in the beginning, there's no way we can cover it in a half hour or an hour podcast, but hopefully people enjoyed listening. I had one final question, and you weren't prepared for this one, so I'm going to catch you a little bit off guard. But you have been creating some video content for LinkedIn, and I know you've been, a lot of people listening have been following that. Um, what what is the inspiration, and what AI tool are you using to create some of those images that we've seen on your LinkedIn?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think one of the things that I try to do is um, really throw out ideas, you know, out there into the LinkedIn world. And the number one tool that I use is Gemini Advanced for that. I mentioned that it's very good at the strategy level, but with the new release of Gemini, they've also introduced video into that. So literally you can write a video prompt for anything and it will produce it for you. So one of the things that I like to do is really think about a lot of different topics that come through and think about it from different perspectives. And that is what I try to do. I'm very curious how people work. I am very curious what galvanizes people. I am very curious how people come together and how they can work well together. And one of the things that I have understood over time is that the human spirit can overcome many things. It can overcome even a bad process. So that is something that I try to navigate with my ideas and what I'm putting out there in LinkedIn. And for me, that galvanization starts with an inspiration, and that it starts with the why. And that is also why we started, this business, Coach What Matters, and the why blueprint. The why galvanizes, the why delivers. You don't need much more than that. And to me, that is what I want to put out in the world.
Wonderful. Cesar and I hope you learned something today about how to embrace AI and what it brings to coaching and the executive toolkit. To our listeners, I hope you're prepared to get started and explore how AI can be your work assistant and effectiveness booster. For more from Coach What Matters, check out our website at www.coachwhatmatters.com, where you can find our blog, previous podcast episodes, and request a consultation. We're also social. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So like and follow to receive tips and advice directly to your daily feed. Until next time, coaches and leaders, remember to engage with what matters most.